right. Well, hello, and welcome to our BG5 Live. It's great to be back. I've been gone for a couple of weeks. You can probably hear in my voice, I have a little bit of a cold. So I apologize ahead of time if I have to mute myself to cough. But that's when I travel, I seem to always sort of catch a bug. So I'm recovering. So I'll be back in full capacity by next week. But anyway, I'm back, and it's great to be back. And I really want to do a huge shout out to our team for taking over while I was away. They did an excellent, amazing job. And before we get started and jump into today's BG5 Live, Logical Diversity Leading to Stillness, let's have our team say hello. So, Lavina.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to BG5 Live. So glad that you could join us today.
Yeah, great to have you here. Welcome, welcome. And Natalie.
Yeah, thank you. And welcome, everyone. And I'm happy you're back, Karen.
Great to be back. And Chris.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Welcome. We're so glad that you're here, and welcome back, Karen, and welcome back, Lavina. Last week you were out too. So it's great to have everybody back this week.
Yay.
It does feel good. Yeah.
Having our full team. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. So what we are going to be taking a look at today, we're actually going to take a look at two traits today. One, taking a look at diversity, and then we're going to take a look at moving to stillness. And with that, I'd like to share with you a little bit about my adventures of what I was doing last week while I wasn't here last week. I was actually at the U.S. Open. My husband and I were volunteering at the U.S. Open. I was actually on the evacuation team. So you can see this little trailer right here. This is from the TV. This is where I was hanging out. So here's the trailer where I was hanging out. So I was on the evacuation team. You can see all the vans. Luckily, we didn't have to evacuate anyone. So that's just in case there's inclement weather, or there's some kind of stop of play, we actually load up the players and take them back to the clubhouse. So there was no emergency, so I got to hang out on beautiful Pebble Beach and take a look. This is the 10th tee as well as the 9th fairway. So I had a great view, and it was really, really fun. You can see there were tons and tons of people. We got to see Tiger Woods and Jordan Spieth, and we actually, the restrooms were right here too. So I got to see a lot of the players and say hello to them as they were using the facilities. So, but it was fun to really see them and get to.
That's a different flavor, being the facility lady.
Yeah. Oh, but you know, got to see them up close and get to say hi to them. So it was really fun. And this is Gary Woodland. He's the one who won the U.S. Open this year. And this is my husband in the background here as a marshal. I'm going to talk a little bit about this today as well. So here's his 15 seconds of fame on national television. My husband was the marshal on the 14th hole. So yeah, it was really fun. We had a great time. And this is Carol Zimmerman. I don't know if any of you know Carol Zimmerman, but she was my first instructor in human design through IHDS. She teaches a lot of the classes at IHDS. And so we got to meet in person. So it was really just a lovely meeting her. She was also volunteering at the U.S. Open as well. So it was a lot of fun. So this is where I was hanging out last week.
How fun.
Yeah. So with that, I kind of thought that I would sort of tie in some of my experiences that we had during the U.S. Open into the two traits that we're going to be taking a look at today. Earlier today, it was diversity. This is trait 15, and it was in quality 6, which is about self-defense. It's really the 6, again, is about the leader. And just to kind of explore what this means, trait 15 is part of a small group dynamic, and it's really what pulls people into that small group dynamic. But there's a modesty that's in that, within the 15. And this is one of the love traits. And this is we have our Profit Potential workshop coming up where we're going to be focusing on identity and direction. So we're going to dive into the love traits and the direction traits. And so this is one of the love traits, and this is really about the love of humanity, about the diversity of humanity and being able to pull everybody onto the same page. This is one of the traits within the small group dynamics. And this is modesty that is never confused with weakness. And this is the constant re-examination to weed out the weakest aspect. And so that's why I have this this picture here of, it's kind of the weakest link in the chain to really find out. This is part of the large logic circuitry where it's really about perfecting and making things better and taking a look at where is that weakest link. And it's the power of the self in exploring the extremes to find the weakest point, right? If you have diversity, you have all kinds of different things, and it's exploring those extremes so you can find what that weakest point is. Now, on the other side, it's the tendency to use harmony as a weapon in problem situations rather than focusing on the root cause. Or it's the power of self to ignore the weakest point in favor of harmony. So I wanted to share a little story, and then I'd love to hear from my team as well, sort of what you see and what resonates here. I brought up this picture. This is my husband here as a marshal. And one of the things that happened, he has the 15, and he stepped in. There was a gentleman who was the whole captain who ended up not feeling well and had to leave. So my husband stepped up and took on that role. And the 15 has this magnetic, attraction of sort of pulling people together. And it was amazing watching him pulling together the team. And one of the things that he did immediately was kind of weed out what the weakest aspect was. And it was very interesting because one of the things that they were having problems with, the 14th hole at Pebble Beach, is one of the longest fairways. And you can see this guy here that has the two paddles that he's holding up. This is actually to communicate down the line, because from the tee box, you can't see if somebody is on the fairway or not. So they communicate with the paddles to know when it's okay to hit. And one of the problems is that down the way, the person who had the paddles down in the middle of the field wasn't communicating correctly. And actually there is a pairing that teed off that actually almost hit the team in front of, or the pairing in front of them, because the communication was not correct. Mm-hmm. In seeing that, again, it was that weakest point, and that weakest point was causing a lot of problems. And, if you ignore the weakest point in favor of harmony, like you don't want to, you don't want to upset someone, you don't want to, move someone from a job that they're doing because this particular person really wanted to do this job, but he wasn't doing it properly and wasn't trained properly. And they didn't really have enough time to do the training because we were right in the middle of it. And so he had to actually remove that person, and put in someone who was trained, who knew what to do. So it wasn't about ignoring the weakest link, and it wasn't confused with weakness. It was just kind of weeding out that aspect. And he was able to talk to that person, because at first they were upset, but was able to put them into a different position, and, so that everything worked perfectly. And so again, it was sort of weeding out that weakest point, and replacing that weakest point so that everything flowed, and so that the communication was straightforward. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an interesting example, especially with my husband who has that 15, of how he really utilized that trait, to pull everybody together, identify what the weakest link was, and then, be able to find that weakest point and replace it.
Mm-hmm. In order to have this kind of foresight, they have to be focused on where things are going. And I find that so fascinating that when we're talking about the logical diversity here, this is about where things are going, with the identity. So the function of looking towards the future and seeing the pattern, recognizing the pattern, okay, this is going to break. Now we've got to be able to align this so that we don't have that weak aspect foiling our plans to get forward.
Right. Exactly. What about for you,
Great
Chris?
example. This is just a
Yeah.
great example, I think, of, and even tying in what Lavina just said, of moving forward. I mean, they're moving forward on the course and seeing where the breaks are. And, we were talking about yesterday in the OC16 about, energy management as being one of the issues when we're looking at a large group, and that this to me is also an energy management issue. If you can't step into the leadership role and not try to take care of everybody else, I say codependency is an energy mismanagement issue. You manage everybody else's issue so you feel okay. That's to me what codependency is. So here it's like really not, it's like, it's not that I don't care how you feel. I just don't care how you feel. There's a bigger picture here, and being able to hold that space for that, and recognize there's lots of diversity, right? But here's where we're going, and that's what's most important. And then taking care of everybody afterwards. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And thinking about this in business too, and thinking of this, as far as being a leader within your business, or taking a look at leaders within business, how often do they, in a sense, ignore the weakest point in favor of harmony, which then also, can have negative effects on the business itself.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that to me is that piece of like, well, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I have a CEO that I'm working with who does that. And it's like, oh, this is where you're operating out of the sort of the shadow of that trait versus the higher expression of it, the gift of it. Yeah, it's easy to slip into that, right? We have everybody wants to play nice. Sometimes playing nice means you have to be, decisive.
Right. And if we take a look at what the title of the quality, it's self-defense, and in self-defense, you have to find out, what the weakest link is, so that, that's how you protect yourself. Right. Because if you allow that weakest link if this breaks, the whole chain breaks, everything breaks apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of that defense is, making sure that you're finding whatever that weakest link is, so that you can address it, so that you can deal with it.
And this speaks so much to what a quality 6 is about. And a good leader is being able to see big picture view and be objective. Like Chris was saying, it's not about your feelings. It's about what is best for the whole, right? Collectively, as all of us are moving forward, what's going to keep that ball rolling.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then the other flip side of the self-defense is it goes back to that, well, I don't want to, protecting the self of how I look, or I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. I don't want to be the bad guy. And so we get into a defensive position. And so that's again, that, that not stepping into the higher aspect of it, or the leadership. It's using it actually against oneself, in the shadow of it.
Yeah, can somebody speak more to that as far as the harmony as a weapon? Because that seems like something that could be. Natalie?
Yeah, well, I have the 15 too, but the 15 in quality 1, but I have it too.
Oh, okay.
The harmony is about the extremes bringing to harmony, and the modesty as well. So it's modesty, balance and integrate to the extremes into the collective or into the group, right? Because that's actually what you do when you are in a group, and how it is a business skill. And then so the first bullet point and the last one actually state the same, that you try to achieve, or that's kind of the innate nature of the 15, to get the extremes to understand each other and to weave in, but we do not go to the extreme of actually having a weak point destroying the whole structure. So we do not so the self doesn't ignore the weakest point if that's just for harmony. Because that's generally what the 15 does. Creating, this, pulling the team together, creating understanding between each other. But the quality 6, the leader, the one that really learned a lesson, that can see beyond of what actually is. If we accept every extreme, then we accept the real weak link, and we need to weed that out, because then the business will not operate and everything will fall apart.
And it's almost like, okay, well, everything's in harmony, so I don't want to disrupt everything. So that's how it's kind of used as in a sense, as a weapon, because you're not looking at the root cause. It's like, okay, everybody's getting along right now. I don't want to rock the boat, because in order to weed out that weakest link, it wasn't an easy thing to do, right? It's not an easy thing to address someone who may be who is the weakest link. Nobody wants to be identified as the weakest link, right? So
we're seen as the bad guy that's addressing it.
Right, exactly. On that side too, you also don't want to be seen as the bad guy for addressing that weakest link. But once it's addressed, it's uncomfortable at first, like, but as soon as that weak link is removed, it's like, everybody can relax, because everybody, in a sense, sort of knows, what the weakest link is, but nobody wants to say anything, right? And that can have its ill effects as well.
Yeah, and quality 6 is the objective leader, so objectively looking at the situation, not personally. It's not a personal issue, but yeah.
And it's again that sort of self-defense of the whole, that if you're not looking out after the whole, and not weeding out that weakest link, just like Lavina was saying, how do you move forward into the future? And it's interesting, we have the 15 in trait 6, and the 6 is always kind of looking to what's next. And so today we are now looking to what's next in moving into the 52. And the 52 is of stillness. And quality 1 is think before you speak. And remember, whenever we're taking a look at the quality 1, it's about the foundation. And I love this line. The pause that is so profound that it leads to silence.
I'm sorry. It's brilliantly executed. I had to start giggling.
I know. I almost said, okay, well, we're done here. Bye-bye. That was our show for today. If she had a microphone, she could drop it right there. Right?
Yep, exactly. Actually, Natalie and I were talking about it before. We're like, oh, let's just say that and then end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing more to say.
There's nothing more to say.
I love this Zen guy with all the stuff, all the people around him. That's so perfect. I love it.
And here's just tying it back to the golf event as well, which I think is just so amazing. This pacification of energy that leads to stillness. So you can see this is my husband here, and one of the things that you do as a marshal is when a player is about to hit, you put your arms up, and when you put your arms out, we had a huge crowd. You can't really see the crowd here because they're kind of on a little hill right here, but there's a huge crowd. And as soon as all of the marshals put their hands up, there's tons of people. As soon as they put their hands up, everyone is quiet. It's the most amazing thing. It is that pause that's so profound that it leads to silence, and everything is quiet. And you can see Gary Woodland here, and you could see this, and you could feel this with each of the players, that as soon as there was this quiet, there was this moment of pause. where it's like they're looking down the course, you know, they have their club, they're aligning everything, and they're in their own world. You know, it's like they you can see this pause that's so profound that leads to silence. And it's so fascinating to watch because, again, everybody is quiet. This is a crowd. This is a huge crowd. And everybody's silent. They're in their own world. They hit the ball. As soon as they hit the ball, you know, everybody, you know, screams, and, you know, you have all of this noise, but it is that pause that's so profound that leads to silence.
Mm. I remember, that reminds me of when President Obama was inaugurated, and and I remember I was holding my baby in my lap and watching on the television, and what I was struck by was there's like 1 million people there, right, or more, or something. It was crazy. There were so many people there, and it was so quiet. It was, I remember just feeling that quiet coming through the television, and how he's speaking, and no one, I mean, they panned through the crowd. No one was talking. There was no side talk. It was silent, and it was palpable. In my head, I had goosebumps, like my whole body had goosebumps because of it. And that's what this is when you have that many people together and they're quiet, all it is energy. And it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful experience, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We have kind of that same effect. On the 4th of May here in the Netherlands is the day to remember all the fallen in the World War II, and actually that's where it started, and everybody that is a victim to war is, and then at 8 o'clock we have a national 2 minutes of silence. And then wherever you are in the Netherlands, you know, people pause, and you know, you can be at home, but also here in Amsterdam, we have the Dam Square, which is famous, and it's filled with people. Everybody's quiet for 2 minutes in a city that is like, you know, yeah.
Wow.
Very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that power of silence. You know, in speaking, and you probably, you know, have this a lot too, Chris, you know, that power pause.
Right.
You know, when speaking. And sometimes we try to fill up our days with, you know, we have the TV on, we have the radio on, we have noise going, we have, you know, everything's, you know, but what is that silence?
I have to laugh. My daughter, teenager, 12 years, 30, almost 13 years old, she is like literally every second but she goes to sleep, and her way to have this profound silence, then she puts on ASMR. So it's like whispering.
Oh, my son talks about that too. It's like this new thing where
so that's the new type of pause. So it's still, you know, in communication.
It's funny. It is. It's weird.
I'm not even aware of that. What is that?
It's like there's a commercial out. I want to say it's for Coca-Cola, or maybe it's for a beer commercial. I don't know, in the United States. And it's where this girl is sitting in a field, and she's got a microphone, and what they do is they talk very quiet into their microphone.
No, they even whisper.
And they'll whisper, and and it's like this really, it's very, and they'll make sounds, and it's, it's like this new thing on the on the interwebs, and teeny, like the teeny boppers know that. But anyway, so that's what.
So in the dictionary it says a feeling of well-being combined with a tingling sensation in the scalp and down the back of the neck, as experienced by some people in response to a specific gentle stimulus of a particular sound. So ASMR, Lila told me once what it means, but it's triggered by things like whispering voices and paper tearing and scalp massages.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So maybe we should just have coaching all our, CEOs to be whispering. you know. But you did bring up a good point though, Karen, about the pause. I was watching a speaker recently who's a really well known. I mean, this guy's been around forever. Les Brown, if anybody knows who Les
Yeah.
Brown is. And then one of his proteges was on, and this guy's amazing, the dynamic, right? And but there's this very interesting, I call it sort of, there's the yang or yang speaker that's all about power, and the yin speaker, which is more about the speaking, with inflection and more quietly. And the pauses are not contrived. The pauses simply are what they are. And this guy was just, and then he paused, and then he turned around and he goes, "I'm pausing for effect," and he was like talking about what he was doing. And I knew what he was doing, but it was sort of silly, like there's this, it's just fascinating, how we can, even as speakers, or when, in that kind of situation where he's like, pow, 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 with all these words and just a lot of information. And then I'm going to pause for effect. And then I'm going to tell you I'm pausing for effect. I was like, okay, that was weird.
Well, on the other side is, speaking first and living with the consequences afterwards.
Yeah, right.
Or energy that cannot be stilled.
Yeah, right. I love it.
Logic needs to have like silence in order to concentrate. I've
Yeah.
tried to work when there's loud stuff going on and you're like, I can't concentrate. There's so many things going on. You kind of need that ability to focus on something specifically.
Yeah.
The silence gives us the space. Quiet holds the words so that we can distinguish the sounds from each other. Because if we didn't have quiet, it would be just garbled noise.
This is also the mountain. And so I always, the stillness is, so I just think, I live in Colorado, so you can see the mountains, and how majestic they are and how still they are, and there's this stillness, there's this strength, there's this majesticness about them that, in a sense, you don't have to, it's those pauses beyond words are also, those pauses are, and that silence is also that place beyond words. I love what you said, Chris. It's when everyone is quiet, all that's there is the energy that's palpable without the words, and how powerful that really is.
Another thing that's really fascinating about this technically is that this is down in the lower part of the mandala, where it's the quarter, which is about form. That 52 is with all of the other communication and action gates.
Oh, yeah.
That this is part of what contributes to us in form. Being in form is this stillness, and silence is part of form. Kind of neat to think about.
There's the Rumi quote that a lot of people have heard before, but we don't often hear the second half of the quote, and I'll read it to you. It's one of my favorites. "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about." And we don't usually hear that second part. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Nice. I love that. And that's really what this is talking about, is that stillness, that energy.
And, you know, and when we take a look at it, you know, in this business context as well, you know, that's why I brought in this picture. I love this picture because there's all of this craziness, you know, when you're in business, there's all this craziness, money and contracts and phone calls and, you know, this and that and the other. And to, you know, have that pause, to be able to ground yourself in that silence, that no matter how much craziness is going on, you know, that you can have that sort of, you know, steady strength of the mountain is what's going to, in a sense, ground you in your business, you know, or ground you in your day-to-day activities, so that you don't get caught up in the chaos, you know, so that it's not energy that cannot be stilled, you know, that you can have that, you know, pacification of energy that leads to that stillness.
And this kind of grounded stillness leads to what Warren Buffett, Bill Gates described as the one thing that really made them successful, and that is focus. Without this ability to pause, to take stock and go forward in a logical direction, still about logic, into the focused activity that's going to bring you the results that you're looking for, you cannot achieve on this physical plane, because you get distracted and going in too many different directions.
And you have the 52, Natalie.
Yes, I have it twice. You are sign languaging, Lavina.
Full strength, yeah.
I got the full strength. Yeah. No, yeah, I have it actually twice, and it's interesting because I have it in the 3rd and in the 6th quality, so a little bit different. So I really had to learn about being still through trial and error, so to say. And speaking first and then living with the consequences is really what happened to me a lot when I was younger. And I am much more rested and I like this guy, not yet, and I don't know if I ever will be. To pause and to what I also, when you were talking about this, Karen, I was thinking I can really get caught up in the craziness, but just to still yourself or get out of it or shut your computer down. Just for the evening, you are more productive in the end than just continuing on. That's a difficult one for a lot of people, and especially for builders, I think.
Yeah.
And also advisors that are really on the bus of not knowing when enough is enough. But the other thing about stillness, so when I saw this first and I saw this mountain and this Zen person on the mountain, I can, and then meditation always, or my kind of conditioned mind thinks meditation is about emptying your mind. That's impossible. That's really but just to what I now do kind of as my type of meditation, just lie down and I have this either birds or waves or whatever kind of music, and then just let me go with the music. I am auditive, so to kind of and then just let it flow, and then the focus comes, or the just after the first few thoughts of whatever is on the daily table, the creativity starts. So this pause also leads to kind of the creativity, or being able to know what you really want to focus on, and what is actually, side information or steps, or even distracting you because there's so much emails, but what is actually your focus? I can think of a lot we still want to accomplish, but we get caught up in daily business. So yeah, also to accomplish things that we envision, for instance, with the Institute, we need to still ourselves. Otherwise, we just continue on with teaching and everything we do, and we never finish up. I know you, Karen, for instance, over the breaks, when you first started teaching OC16, you kind of shut the doors and just went and created this database for us to be able to teach OC16. And that's only possible with this stillness, and able then to focus in on where you want to put your energy to.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point, Natalie, because oftentimes we feel like we have to go and do. But I think, you know, what you said also is that, you know, how do I want to say this? How productive that stillness is.
Yeah.
Like it seems like we're not doing anything, you know, at times if we're in that stillness, but it's like that in that stillness is that moment to, you know, regenerate, that moment to, you know, take in the big picture, that moment to ground ourselves. And we're in quality one, so this is the foundation, you know, to really ground ourselves in that stillness, you know, is just as important, you know, as the go, if not even more important, especially to have that balance.
I have another really fascinating example, but so in losing weight, we really want to sport and but it's actually proven that sleeping and taking rest and not have your schedule like this and then do sports and etc. will bring you at times even better results in losing weight than actually going for the sport. Yeah.
Well, this is also, you know, as you were talking, I was really thinking about this is the foundation of waiting. And every design, every type has some form, if you will, of waiting, you know, and we did that article on the superpower, waiting for your superpower. But like, think about it, if, you know, and even in the BG5 baseball article too, is sort of like, you know, for the builders, we're at bat, right? And if everything's coming at us, we're just smacking everything. If it's in the stillness, almost like I picture it like Luke Skywalker when he's learning to use a lightsaber in the Jedi, you know, and he's like, and he's blinded, but he's listening for it, right? Otherwise you're just you know, hitting everything. And the advisor is in this stillness to truly see themselves and be an invitation, and then notice the correct invitations. You know, if not, they're running all over the place trying to get an invitation or see an invitation, you know. And so I think that there's this stillness is really part of our strategy, and it allows for the waiting aspect, you know, for the evaluator to be initiated, right? If they're doing all kinds of things, and it's actually in the stillness to notice where to move next, and for the innovator to, you know, have all these ideas, I'm just going to go do, and then they're exhausted because they just were doing a lot of stuff, but not the correct thing to initiate, and waiting in that stillness for the correct prompt, if you will, whatever that looks like for each of the types.
I love it. Exactly. You know, and just also tying it into what Lavina had said earlier, you know, this is all about, you know, with the 52, if this is part of your life work, you know, you fulfill your purpose through form, and all of the traits that are in communication and action are, you know, in this quarter of being able to fulfill your purpose through form. And I love what quality one says: think before you speak. It's that pause before you speak, or that you take action. You know, you know, and all of, you know, most of the traits in communication and action, you know, are waiting for recognition and invitation before speaking. And so again, it's that pause, to check in with your decision-making strategy. That pause, that waiting to respond, or waiting for recognition and invitation, or waiting to be moved into action, from a place of a clarity, for example, or whatever the innovator's decision-making strategy is, or waiting to be initiated. It is all, I love what you said, Chris, and again, just tying it all together with what Lavina said, that that it's part of what's necessary to create, to manifest things in physical form. How important that is. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Mm-hmm. Wow. I love these BG5 lives. It's really fun to discuss these aspects and see them at deeper levels. And so for those of you who are listening here, again, if you want to find out more about your personal career design, we do have free reports, so you can learn more about your career design and learn how you're designed to make decisions. If you go to bg5businessinstitute.com, you'll find a link there where you can get your personalized report. And also we have some profit potential workshops coming up, and interesting enough, they're on the 2 traits that we covered today. So starting on July 10th, we have the Identity and Direction workshop coming up. So that's coming up here soon in July. And in September, we're going to start the series from the very beginning again. We're going to continue the series as well. But Chris is going to be starting to teach Drive and Stamina in September. So that will be available in September. So we took a look at what we just took a look at with Stillness as part of Drive and Stamina, and what we took a look at with diversity is here in Identity and Direction. So we invite you to take a look at our Profit Potential workshops, and also coming up in September, we'll have we'll be releasing here soon our whole list of classes that will be starting here in September. So again, visit our website at bg5businessinstitute.com, and to check out the Profit Potential workshops, it's /profit. So thank you. I so enjoy this, and I love having our entire team here. So I would love to just wrap everything up by hearing from each of our team, members of our team, and anything, last words that you want to say to wrap everything up for today. Who would like to start? How about you, Lavina?
I'd like to comment that I really enjoy the dynamic of having one trait that we're looking at and moving into whatever the next trait is when that shift happens, because it's really interesting to put it in a greater contextual recognition of how these things flow together. So I vote for that moving forward. When we're moving from the one that's from before into the next one, it's really interesting.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's and it's fun to kind of see what that progression is. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, and I'd like to invite everybody to look out for the stillness and the pauses today.
Yes, yeah. Take that moment today, sometime during today, to experience that pause. To experience that stillness, to experience that quietness of that pause. Love it. How about for you, Chris?
I love that. As soon as you were saying that, like, experience the pause, we had this huge crack of thunder, and it just started like thunder, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, no stillness here, but it was really that pause right before. It was so beautiful. So anyway, thank you everyone for joining us today. It was super fun, and we can't wait to see you till next week, right? So
yeah, exactly. And we didn't have a lot of space to do any kind of interaction. We were all kind of getting back together as our team and as our group. But one of the things also that I'd love to see moving forward as well, that if you have comments, if you would like to share anything from your perspective, if you're part of the BG5 Live here on Zoom, you can we can unmute you and you can join us live if you'd like to. And with Facebook, Lavina is monitoring Facebook, so if you have comments, you can type in the comments. Also, we're now posting this on YouTube and also Vimeo, so be sure to subscribe if you want to get the updates. So as soon as we load it up, then you can watch the latest version, and click like as well. So if you want to watch us on YouTube or Vimeo, we're there now as well. So
remember to subscribe.
Yep, exactly. So, and join us live every Tuesday. Again, it's at 1 p.m. U.S. Pacific time. So love to have you join us live. And again, if you can't join us live, there's multiple ways that you can get caught up. So look forward to seeing you next week and exploring what's next week. So. Yeah.
Kitty is also looking
Oh,
forward.
yes. Sure. Well, since you're here, Kitty, you have to introduce yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is Moxie. So say hi, Moxie.
Yeah.
So this is my kitty, Moxie. So she wanted to be part of the broadcast as well. Say goodbye. All right. Bye, everyone. Great having you here. We'll